Hey everyone, it's Skiesti. If you're new here and don't know who I am, I'm a top 500 Mercy streamer and I offer VoD reviews over at my Ko-fi. Today we're looking at a 1.2 KSR game. They're a bronze Mercy main that mostly solo queues. They told me they struggled to get value out of Mercy in bronze and that their team was complaining about healing, but I don't think that was their problem. In fact, I think they were doing a bit too much healing as Mercy. I think their prioritization with damage boost could definitely be worked on. As well, it's important to understand that even if a DPS isn't offering consistent damage ticks, playing with them allows them to keep their position and add pressure. You can damage boost Junkrat for initial damage when the enemy is coming out of spawn, then fly to your soldier on the high ground and play safely with him there. I normally don't ever take this position on the statue because your back is toward the enemy team. This means that you can't see incoming damage that you might take, where they're pushing from, what their team comp is, etc. When Roadhog takes damage, he's way out of range. You can keep your beam on soldier instead of disconnecting. When your DPS isn't taking damage, it's okay to not top them up for a bit, but because soldier is playing within line of sight of the enemy and there is incoming damage, it's okay to take a moment to heal him so he doesn't have to use his heal pad. When you do go to heal Ana, you don't have to hard commit your Guardian Angel. You can drop off the statue and walk slightly to be in range while still maintaining a safe position. Because you do completely reposition to heal her, you're far away from your soldier, who is your default pocket, and unable to get back to him before he dies. Although you want to res this, I would highly advise against it. Since you're down 2, the enemy is starting to push in and apply pressure, which will make it much harder for you to res in that area. Since there's no way to res and Hog won't make it out alive, you should have stayed behind Junkrat and Ana instead of trying to push up to help. Staying back would have ensured that you stay alive and not get hooked trying to get back to safety. When assisting your team, you can play further back and utilize beam length. A good example for this is when you're with soldier helping him retreat. You're playing in the middle of the team still even after he's out of danger. Ideally, you should be playing behind soldier and more in cover. Watch healing anti-targets. When someone is anti, you might as well damage boost them since they can't be healed either way. Hog is doing his own thing on the left. It's not your responsibility to go out of position and away from your job to heal him. He's able to sustain with his own healing ability, and if he's caught out, you don't want to be caught out with him. It's best to play down Mei with your DPS and let him do his thing. The enemy Ryan is at full health when he's going for you. If he was lower HP, I'd encourage you to pistol him like you do, but you already have Valk and there's very little chance of you winning this 1v1. All this does is give him ult charge to then give to his supports. Normally you would go help soldier on the left and take this high ground with him, however, since you're still quite far away from him and he ends up dropping off the high ground anyway, it's okay that you don't. If you would have kept that high ground, I would have encouraged you to go with him, but since he didn't, it's fine. Since Ryan is still alive and a threat, I'd be careful of resing near him like this, especially if he has charge up. You can res on the other side of this wall to make sure you're safe. The other side here is safer because no one is a threat down main, and you know this because 3 people are dead and you don't see anyone main either, and the Reinhardt is in front of you. After resing soldier, he's your default pocket, so ideally you want to damage boost him and make sure he retreats safely rather than turning your back on him. Although there is nothing you can do about him taking the close duel with Ryan here and getting charged, it's just something to keep in mind normally that, you know, if this hadn't happened, you would have wanted to play with him. Playing inside this building is really not great for Mercy. When the enemy team pushes in, you're going to end up between the 2 teams and unable to retreat with your team. I would basically just recommend staying out of this room altogether unless you need the health pack. Just don't go in there. Don't do it. Watch healing full health targets. You should be defaulting to damage boosting your soldier. The little bits of damage that your tanks take are not your responsibility. When you Valk, you should be Valking from more in cover on your left so the enemy team has less of a sight line on you. Because your spawn is close, it's okay to not res Ryan, especially when it would have put you in the enemy line of sight. When Valk is about to end, you should be using that time to reposition yourself so that when it ends, you can be in a better place to pocket your default DPS. Right now, you're very far away from soldier when Valk is done. I think committing with your Reinhardt is okay here because he's able to kill the Ana due to being double pocketed. Although you get shattered, it ends up being worthwhile since you don't die from it, but once you get back up from shatter, you should be looking immediately for your soldier behind you instead of pocketing your Moira. You, on the other hand, end up getting separated from your team after your Moira fades away. This forces you to have to GA across enemy sight lines. It's a lot easier and safer for you if you're just playing with your soldier once you're not shattered anymore. Playing on point is not good for you, and we already mentioned you should be with your soldier anyway. You also don't need to play close to the enemy Ryan when your team pushes him. You should be taking as many precautions as possible to make sure you stay alive or are not in risk of taking damage. To prevent dying from visor from your current position, you should be behind cart instead of clumped in front of it with your team. Otherwise, following the positioning I mentioned beforehand could have prevented this as well, I think. When you come out of spawn, you should take the route on the right so you can position with the DPS. You can be playing more on the right side near the health pack instead of down main. Taking a position near the health pack allows you to see the Reaper before he drops down on you. It also puts you in a better position to evade him. You don't need to GA directly beside your soldier. You can help him from where you originally were while utilizing the cover there. I really don't like this positioning on the cart. You can keep the position you were at before. Remember, cover is your friend. Your Rhine isn't back yet, which leaves your soldier in danger when he frontlines here. Watch his health bar a bit more closely so he doesn't die. This super jump doesn't really do anything. I'd be careful of super jumps that don't have a reason, just in case it ends up putting you in danger. After Shadow, you can damage boost Moira's Coalescence to target squishies and follow up once your Rhine goes too far. Watch healing anti-target. Also, when the anti wears off, you won't be able to out-heal a nanoed Rhine, especially when your Moira fades back. In situations like this, it's best to not put yourself out of position to help teammates that can't be saved. It'd be better here if you took the right side with your soldier. In most of these situations, you should be following him around and taking those slightly higher grounds with him to get the most value out of Mercy. I feel like in general, you're spreading yourself too thin trying to be with everyone, and then end up choosing the wrong teammates to be with. Positioning with your DPS also prevents scary situations like this, where the enemy Reaper drops down on you and you don't really have anywhere to go when he does this. You're saved by Rhine pin, but if Rhine hadn't pinned him, you would have been in danger. Moments like this, you could also benefit from super jumping to high ground as well as an escape or to get vertical advantage over him. Damage boosting Junkrat or Hog is good here because your soldier doesn't have any sort of sightline when your team pushes up. I am so afraid for you going onto that high ground while the Reaper is there. When I was watching this, I had to stop. I freaked out. Once you see him teleport up there, you should not stay there. You should go back to the lower ground. Once he's hooked off the high ground, then you can super jump there if you'd like to position there. And I will say that this spot can be very good, but only if you're in reach of your DPS. In this case, you aren't really able to assist from this spot. Normally you wouldn't Valk here because the enemy is already down to you, but it's last fight, so it's okay. You can be careful of how you're positioning in Valk. You don't need to be flying out in the open. You can use extended beam range to assist from a safer position like you were before. If you position more like where you were before for this Valk, you can help your team by beaming them through this doorway. This allows you to, 1, not have to go inside this room and be in danger of whole hog, and 2, not have beam break from your hog due to not having line of sight anymore. Moving over to attack, you've got these same team compositions, your priorities don't change. Rhine is pretty much impossible to save here. He is antied for most of the time, and when the anti wears off, they push on him, and he's pretty much a goner. I don't really like this positioning for you though. It's probably better for you to sit here or here, because you shouldn't be positioned in the middle of your team. Really try to utilize the length of Mercy's beam more to ensure there's less potential for you to take damage. When your team is grouped up like this, Moira can take care of the little bits of healing, and you can default to damage boosting Soldier and not Moira. You also don't really need to be healing Rhine when Moira is right there, just keep pocketing your Soldier. When you see a Reinhardt aggressing like this, I would try to get a vertical advantage via super jump. Since he's aggressing with Nano, it's likely that he has Shatter and wants to use it. This res is pretty unnecessary. Moira's respawn timer is almost done, and she's right outside of spawn, so it would be better to save res for the upcoming fight and let her respawn. As soon as Moira ults, I would take a moment to swap to damage boost her. And when it ends, you should be back with Soldier on the left side instead of trying to follow Hog into the right room. He has his heal, and there's a Mega in that area, so he's okay without you. If you go to Soldier earlier after Coalescence ends, it should prevent his death. And what I said about the Moira res earlier comes into play here because now res is on cooldown and you don't have it for Soldier. It seems like you kind of drift into the pin, whereas if you remain more on the left like you were before, it could have been avoided. At the end of this pin, this is where you take out your pistol to try to kill him. You can already help Junkrat without Guardian Angeling forward next to him. You want to be out of the enemy line of fire as much as possible. Your beam shouldn't break from Junkrat because he still needs to be kept alive so he doesn't stagger. Watch out for accidentally GAing into enemy abilities like the Fire Strike here. The GA serves no purpose. You should always have a reason or intention behind your GAs. This sleep is easily preventable by just staying on the right side with your Soldier and playing further back either in this position or this one. You definitely should not GA to your tanks as it's not your job to take that space, especially because doing so gets you killed. Here you should be playing way further back with your Soldier. You're up 2, and if you let your tanks push that space instead of doing it yourself, it is just so much better. I understand wanting to Valk to get back to your team quicker, but you've already won the fight, so there's no reason for this Valk really. You should let Moira cap point herself and go up with your team instead to fight the people that respawn close so that you can at least try to get some value out of your Valk and have it not be completely wasted. Moira's going back to push the cart so you can be playing with your tanks and assisting them. GAing right in front of this Bastion is incredibly dangerous and so scary. When Rein charges in, let him do his thing instead of risking your life face tanking the Bastion. If Rein does end up dying, you still have res ready for him once the Bastion is dealt with. Try to commit with your tanks instead of spending time looking behind you because you end up falling a bit behind on damage boosting and healing them by doing that. While it is important to keep track of where your allies are on the map, doing so shouldn't cause you to fall behind. When you're pushing up and Moira is on the cart, you're main healing right now, but when everyone is topped up, remember to default to Soldier. However, when they're not full, you're gonna have to be quicker in responding to healing them. In this case, you end up falling behind since you're damage boosting Soldier when you now need to be healing your tanks so that they can keep up with their aggression. Now that your shield is gone and your Moira is still pushing cart, I would just prioritize healing primarily on Hog instead of damage boosting him sometimes so that you can keep him alive. You and Moira both don't need to be on the cart here. Both of you being here removes any healing from your teammates. If she's on cart, you can go up to help your Soldier on the left or your Junkrat down main. Personally, I choose Soldier since Junkrat can back up to cart for support if needed. Watch walking into sightlines like this when you don't have to. You can easily pocket from cover and be completely safe without the enemy seeing you at all. While you can't do much about Soldier dying to the Bastion, when Bastion dies, you can easily go back and res him. Because you're only 4 people here since you didn't res Soldier, I would encourage the team to fall back and wait a bit rather than taking this really awkward fight. You've still got time. If you wanted to commit to this fight, I think it's a bit too late to do so now, and you should probably just save it for a regroup since you have some time. You could have also res Junkrat in Valk quickly since you did use it, but again, I really would have saved this for your next regroup. This entire fight is so staggered. Again, watching too close to your front line. You shouldn't really J here anyway, and remember, you don't have to stand beside your teammate to heal, so really take advantage of that beam range. When Rein turns this corner, it's expected that he's going to take a lot of damage. I would commit to only healing him here instead of damage boosting at all, even though I think he's just likely to die either way. When Rein dies, you should default to damage boosting Soldier instead of Moira. I would strongly encourage you to play more with the DPS in general. And that'll be it for this VoD review. It was really interesting to look at a bronze VoD. I've never had someone send one to me before, so thank you for that opportunity. I hope this was helpful and that you can apply it to your future games. I wish you good luck in continuing your climb. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time.